Hey guys, Paul here from the Ultimate Personal Trainer Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about sales scripts versus sales frameworks. Now, this is a really important topic for PTs because sales are one of those things that we don't really like to talk about. Sales are one of those things where we feel like we could be a little bit sleazy, a little bit scummy in what we're doing, but in reality, sales are simply just identifying a person's need for a particular service or good and then trading that for money, which is a totally fair and equitable exchange. The only time sales is bad is when you're selling something to someone who doesn't need it, and you're selling something for a very inflated price relative to its value. So with that out of the way, the two approaches that we can have with sales are as follows. You've got sales scripts and sales frameworks. And there's some subtle yet important differences between the two that will have a big impact on your results and also your personal preference for selling. Now, sales scripts get you to go through a very rigid framework where you ask a particular set of questions at a particular time and you try and keep the conversation on board with that script for the entire process. This can be really, really useful if you are beginning your sales journey and you're just learning how to sell to people for the first time in your career. The problem and the downside of the scripts is they don't really allow any flexibility, and by being too rigidly stuck to a script, you may miss out on a number of different opportunities to really own in on what that particular person's emotional needs are, and you may not meet them. So what I want to go over today is two particular sales frameworks that I found to be very, very useful when working in sales, and particularly when approaching your sales from the perspective of a subject matter expert. And at MPC, that's one of the main things that we really talk about, creating career longevity, becoming a subject matter expert in a particular niche that you want to be involved in, so people reach out to you. As an expert, you don't really need to go through a script because people are coming to you. So it is a longer term process, but it can ultimately be a more viable and rewarding one. So the two frameworks I want to touch on today are the ACA framework and then also the SICC or SIC framework. The ACA framework is acknowledge, complement, ask, and the SIC framework is specific, impact, change, or continue. And these are both really good frameworks to get to the next question and to get to the emotional of what something's going on. So with the ACA framework, it's a really useful framework to say when anyone comes up with a challenge. We have a financial objection, we have a time objection, we have the partner objection, we have the self-belief objection. These are kind of like the main objections that we're going to come up in fitness. So they can't afford it or whatever it is. Or their partner won't approve. There's a number of different objections, and a lot of script frameworks teach you a specific script framework to solve that. So for example, if finances is the objection, that'll get you to go through how much money you spend eating out and on Uber Eats each week to then find out and uncover that money. Now, that has its downsides and its problems. The first thing is you're taking something away, okay? And if you're taking away something that someone actually likes and enjoys and finds value in, which is eating out and Uber Eats, they're generally not going to stick to that. Okay, they're generally not going to change because it's coming from a position of changing for something that they don't want as much and doesn't bring them as much joy, because fitness initially doesn't do that. It doesn't bring a ton of joy initially. It's actually hard and it requires sacrifice. So that's one of the things. So if someone comes to you with a financial objection, you can acknowledge them for admitting that and you can compliment them for that. Hey, thanks so much for bringing that to my attention. It's really brave of you to admit that. I really admire you for doing that. And then you ask another question for that. Tell me, is financial the only objection that you have? And they say, yes, cool, thanks for letting me know. Is there anything I could do differently in terms of price that could make this program work for you? Okay, so from there, you can then use that financial objection to your program to introduce a lower cost or a higher cost program based on that. You can also ask the question, how important is your fitness to you and your health and fitness, or achieving this goal that you've already identified earlier in the call, on a scale of 1 to 10? And if it's a 10 out of 10, cool, they'll probably work out a way to do it. So, cool, thanks for letting me know it's a 10 out of 10. I treat my health and fitness very seriously. Tell me, is there any way that you could make this happen? And just by framing that alone, framing it that way, you're now moving into a problem-solving approach to your sales rather than just trying to take something away. So you're actually letting the client become the architect of their own change, of the sales process, and getting them to come up with a solution to pay for your program. And by doing that, if the client comes up with a solution to pay for your program, they're going to be much more likely to continue paying for your program going forward. They've created a solution to do something that's valuable to them rather than us taking away something from them. So it's a really useful framework. It's also really good when you're having a conversation with someone via sell by chat, where you're trying to message them and you're trying to move people along the levels of sell by chat. But that's a topic for another podcast. We're going to do an interview with one of the world's best sell by chat experts, which I'm really excited about. He works for MPC anyway, so it's going to be really cool to get him some airtime. And then secondly, the next framework is specific impact, change, and continue. And specific impact, change, continue is a framework, again, that lets the client or the prospect identify that they need to change. And when people realize that they're the problem and they're the person that needs to change, it becomes far more powerful because it becomes an internal driver of change rather than an external driver of change. And we all know from our personal experiences that when we realize we're the problem and that driving change internally is so much more successful, if we can create that in our clients for our conversation frameworks, it makes selling and it also makes client transformation so much easier. So with the specific, what we do is we want to point out something specific that's going on for them. So if they've been experiencing health challenges, we just get them to talk about that. So tell me about your diabetes. Tell me exactly how it affects you. And they'll say, I've got diabetes, I got diagnosed and blah, blah, blah. This happened, this happened, this happened, whatever happened. You just listen and reiterate. From here, this is where we use expertise. So how is having poor blood sugar affecting your ability to exercise? How's it affecting your concentration at work? How's it impacting your love life? By understanding the problem, this is where subject matter expertise is so valuable. By understanding the problem and getting the client to tell you how damaging this is, they're going to be much more likely to change because they're the one telling it. We're not telling them. It isn't very effective telling someone, do you know blood sugar having impaired blood sugar will impact your ability to lose fat. It'll stop you from gaining muscle as quickly. It'll actually make you tired all night and you won't function as well. You're probably going to die younger. How's that sound? No one wants to hear that and no one wants to listen to you say that. They don't want to be chastised for whatever the hell's going on. And this can be applied to any condition, okay? And then from there, what we do is we ask them, okay, cool. Now, all that being said, do you want to change that? Or do you want to continue down this path? And from there, it's a really simple question. Most people will want to change, okay? If they don't want to change, they want to continue, cool, why is that? Thanks for saying that. A lot of people don't actually say that. You can go right into ACA and use that framework to facilitate the next level of change for that client. That being said, not every single client will buy. Some people just don't want to change just yet. The stage of change they're in, they're not ready to change that part of their lives. So if you can use these two particular sales frameworks, not only in your sales conversations, but also your coaching conversations, you're going to find your clients going to be changing a lot more from an intrinsic factor rather than extrinsic motivation being yelled at and having doctors pressuring them to change or their partner. And when you do that, it becomes so much easier to actually do the sale because you're no longer selling them a service that they may not necessarily be interested in. You're selling them a solution to a problem that they've identified is actually quite impactful in their life. That can't be done in a script. It's much better doing it in a framework where you can bounce around the walls of it and have some flexibility to move in and out of those frameworks as necessary. So guys, I hope that's helpful. I hope that's interesting. I hope it transforms your sales and gives you something to work with that's going to help impact both your ability to get new clients and to also serve your current existing clients better. Thanks heaps for watching and listening. I'll see you next week.